Okay, what I'm going to go through is how to create a pivot table so that you can make a chart like this one. And what we're doing is we are taking the information from this report, and I had the publication date in column J, and what I did is I cleaned this column up because it had things like copyright symbols, and it had brackets and parentheses in here. So I removed all those, and then in column L I entered a date range. So 1984, for example, falls in the range 1980 to 1989, and 1972 falls in the range 1970 to 1979. So we're making a graph that tells us how many books we have in this LC subclass T in the different decades. So according to this, we have 219 books that were published between 1990 and 99, because what I want to try to do is figure out the age of our collection. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and I'm going to delete the pivot table and go through how I did that. So what I did first is I copied the columns K and L, because K has the number of items, and you'll see that we have one copy of 50 Years of Popular Mechanics that had a publication date of 1951. So it's going to add up all of the numbers in column K anytime column L has 1950 to 59. It'll add all of those up. So that's what we're doing. So I highlight K through L, I hit Insert, and then Pivot Table, and then click Existing Worksheet, and I'm going to put my pivot table in R1. So I'm clicking Existing Worksheet, and I'm going to select cell R1, and you see it shows up here. I click OK, and we can scroll over a little bit, and you see I have options for date range and number of items, because those were the columns that I selected. So the first thing you want to do is put the date range in the row box down here. You have to do the order right. You can't do number of items first and then date range. You've got to have date range in here first, then click number of items, and we're going to drag number of items over to the values box, and you'll see it creates a nice table right here. And I'm just going to add borders. One thing I want to do is I actually want to exclude the ones that say X, because I just couldn't figure out what the publication date was. We're going to do Insert, and we're going to do our column chart. And I think what I want to do is do one that's horizontal lines, and select the we're not comparing two columns together, so we're going to do the one that's in the middle. And we're going to try that again. So we're going to hit Cut, and we're going to select our columns and click Insert Chart. Okay. So now I'm going to try to close out the pivot chart table and move this over and make it a little bit bigger. And unfortunately, you see it put the X in there, so I'm very disappointed in that. But what we're going to do is right click on Count of Number Items, that button. I'm going to click on Hide Value Field Buttons on Chart. I don't want the date range one in there either. And I actually don't want the key or legend, so I'm going to delete that as well. And now we're going to change where it says total and call that count of items by date range. And if you click in the chart area, it's going to highlight your horizontal lines, and you can click the paintbrush and select a different design. And I kind of like to have a background color, so I'm going to do that. And we could fiddle with it a little bit more, but I think you get the idea. And so here you see a chart that represents the age of the subclass, subclass T. You see we only have about 80 books that were published in the last decade. The majority of them were published in the 70s and the 80s. So we have a very old collection.